This is the second budget I've had a chance to address as a member of this House. Last year, my speech focused on a number of crises that have developed over the course of the previous years. I mentioned the problems in housing, tourism, hospitality, physical health, mental health, transport and agriculture. Unfortunately, in the 12 months that followed the previous budget, very few of these issues have been or seen any progress. The policies of spending unprecedented billions, lots of it in a wasteful manner, while at the same time putting the brakes on our economic activity, have resulted in soaring levels of debt and soaring bills for the future generations that will have to pay the price. I believe in the region of 50,000 for each and every one of us. Today, there are many measures that sound like they should be welcomed, but when the reality is explained, it sounds very different. Take the extra $1 billion announced today for the health budget. There's currently an underspend in the health service, and every imaginable illness has a waiting list in some regard. If there was a proper management structure that ensured accountability, we might see changes. Accountability for the wastage of public monies, Count Corla. The HSE appeared before the Public Accounts Committee, of which I'm a member, and I received a lot of correspondence as a result from actual HSE employees, pretty high-level employees. And this is a flavour of what they had to say about the spending in the HSE. I saw your questioning of the CEO of the HSE. Every consultant in Ireland knows the ventilators ordered during COVID are junk, but they can't say it because they work for the HSE. No Western country uses them. The questions that must be asked are: 1, who exactly ordered them? 2, was any consultant anaesthesiologist or critical care doctor consulted? 3, what does a civil servant know about ventilators? If an Air Corps plane needed an engine, would a civil servant order it without talking to a pilot or aerospace engineer? Ventilators, like aircraft, are made by a few certain reputable, well-recognised companies with outstanding track records and credentials. 2, who decided we needed 2,000 ventilators? We don't have 2,000 critical care beds, let alone nurses, technicians or doctors trained to use them. It's like a civil servant buying 2,000 helicopters for air-sea rescue and then being asked, where are the pilots, the ground crew and the technicians to run them? It's just farcical. Saying that it was done in a hurry is a complete cop-out. It could have been sorted with a couple of phone calls, but like everything in the HSE, there is no accountability. What was not asked at the Public Accounts Committee was about the PCR equipment bought in a certain country that doesn't work, and there is no end to this type of waste. The point is, Count Corla, when a minister announces $1 billion extra, we must have confidence that it's going to be well spent, with return on investment, and give value for money to the taxpayer who provided the money in the first place, and not be spent down a black hole with no accountability. An announcement for free GP care to under 8s at a time when there's a chronic shortage of GPs, no locum cover, 700 GPs due to retire this year alone, and 295 in training. That's a huge deficit that even the Minister for Finance should be able to calculate. The truth is, this announcement is spin and nothing more. False hope. More spin is the announcement that you will increase home care support hours. We have the hours, but again, due to chronic staff shortages, there are 540 families in Wexford alone that have been granted the home care support package, but are waiting for a carer to deliver it, but there are none. So, Count Corla, I think it would be far more beneficial to see a plan as to how waiting lists will be reduced, how hospital capacity will be permanently expanded to ensure 340 ICU beds to care for our most vulnerable. How will we fill the gaps in GPs and all medical staff? A plan with clear objectives and accountability, which can be measured as a success or a failure within a couple of years. $6 billion, I believe, is to be the spend over the future for housing. Housing supply has been and is in crisis for the past 9 years. A major contributor to that crisis in rural Ireland is the crazy minimum density issue, which has been well aired by me on this floor, but decidedly ignored by the powers that be. And they continue to whisper in county managers' ears, keep command of your councillors, and ensure that high densities are passed and catered for in the county development plan, no matter what. Well, as the saying goes, Count Corla, that'll be the rock they perish on. And back to the subject of waste, Minister. On Board Planola is currently implementing policies which don't exist. And the SHD process has yielded legal bills, no houses, but legal bills in the region of 20 million since it began, for the want of recognising that the planning policy they're implementing is illegal. So clearly, Count Corla, this is another area of unnecessary waste, and I've only addressed 2 matters of waste. There's probably 1,002 areas where monies are being wasted and where there is no accountability, and this just has to change. I am disappointed that the Help to Buy scheme wasn't extended to the purchase of existing second-hand homes, because these incentive schemes are useless to buyers unless the supply of housing is adequate, and that there are derelict or second-hand market homes with some availability, but it may be the only affordable option for many first-time buyers. So I hope this will be given serious consideration in the review announced by the Minister today, and that the review is intended to enhance the scheme, not to do away with it. Included in the budget, we had a rise in carbon tax. Carbon tax will disproportionately affect regional and rural Ireland dwellers. There is no public transport alternative. There is no fossil fuel alternative at this time, either in the countryside or in our cities. No significant effort has been made to ameliorate the poverty that this will impose on so many, and no account has been taken of the increase in a litre of fuel, rising some 30 cents in recent months. Carbon taxes are effectively an attack on the poorest in society in order to make many politicians feel better about themselves. The people who will need help heating their homes are the marginalised and the low-income earners. The €5 to pensioners doesn't cover that, nor the €5 social welfare increase. Age Action have said that the buying power of the pension has reduced in the past 3 years by €10.50. That leaves a deficit of €5, not an increase, I'm afraid. You may need reminding that only 30% of pensioners receive the fuel allowance and only 50% receive the living alone allowance. So that leaves 50% of our aged population with the €5, not a €13.50 as quoted today, increase. At the outset, it will depend on the weather, but I hope that provisions will be made if and when called for to alleviate fuel poverty if we have a very poor winter. I suppose our crazy climate policies are having some positive effects, Count Corla. For example, if you were a peat producer in Latvia, you'd be absolutely delighted with the behaviour of the Irish government. And I suppose you'd have to laugh if it wasn't so serious. There are a variety of other issues which I have consistently raised over my 18 months or so in the House, but I expect to see action as a result of the budget. There is no denying that County Wexford, despite being the largest county in Leinster in terms of area and the largest county in the South East in terms of population, has been neglected.
Thank you, Deputy.
Well, I suppose I can come in again tomorrow. Thank you, Count Corla. Thank you, Minister.